Okay, excuse me. I'm gonna lose my voice today. First day of school. 1.1a, we are gonna talk about nets. And geometry, I said this to some of you yesterday, geometry is so spatial. It is so about like the space around you and figures and all of that. So we're gonna jump right into that today with nets. Nets are very spatial. It's all about like how things look and how they're set, things like that. So what I want you to do is look at this first example. It says, if you fold up the two-dimensional picture at the right, so that's those like blue-green boxes, what three-dimensional object do you think it will make? Yeah, Julia. A cube, right. If we were to take those squares and fold them on all the creases, you would get a cube, right? So that's the first thing we're gonna write in there. This is a cube. So now I want you to think about it. Did you get it? Yeah. Awesome. Why don't you just take notes on paper for now? Do you have a pen or pencil or something with you? Okay. So now what I want you to think about is if you take that net, okay, so the flat version is the net. If you fold it up so that D is the front, okay? If you fold it up so D is the front, what is going to be on the bottom? C, right? So here's C, here's D, right? If I fold it up so that D is the front, C is now on the bottom, right? So C is going to be the bottom. What's going to be on top if you keep folding? That's going to be A, right? Which can be a little tricky for some to try to like fold something in your brain, right? So sometimes it might be helpful if you just cut out a little piece of paper. It's going to take a lot of time if you do that, but sometimes the visual is very helpful. I always use this every year just to like represent for you what is actually happening here, right? We're starting with this box and it's becoming this net, or vice versa. You're starting with the net and you're folding it up so that it becomes the box. The very old box. This is probably a Graham pull-up box, and he's 8 now, so it's been around. Okay, so then think about letter C here. What letters would be on the left and the right if we're still using D as the front? E and F. That's going to be E and F. Yeah, so you really just have to like visualize it in your brain. How would I fold this up to get what I'm looking for? So your left side technically would be F, your right side would be E if D is the front. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay, so talking about a net. A net is a two-dimensional, 2D diagram that can fold to form a 3D figure. Okay, so you're taking something flat and you're folding it up to make it a three-dimensional object. All right? So here's what I want you to try to do. That picture there, we call it a triangular prism. That's a triangular prism. I want you to try to take that prism and lay it out flat and draw a picture of the net for that figure. Okay, so you're gonna open it up, lay it out flat. I want you to label dimensions. So I want to know, where is it 7 centimeters? Where is it 4? Where is it 10? You don't need to measure anything. Just make the 10s longer than the 7s and the 7s longer than the 4s, right? Just give me a general idea, but do label the dimensions so that we can see what is what. All right? So give that a go. And then when you're done, maybe talk to your neighbor and see if you guys have the same one, because there's not just one net that works. There's lots of nets that will work. While you're doing that, something for you to be thinking about, how many different shapes are you drawing? Not like different in that they look different than all the other ones, but just how many shapes are there? How many faces, we call them, are there? There's 5, okay? Now, different ones, there's 3. But there are 5 different shapes that you should have individually drawn, right? 3 rectangles, 2 that are the same, 1 that's different, and 2 triangles. So there's 5 total shapes drawn out. Okay, look at your neighbors, or show your neighbor yours. Did you draw the same one? Or are they different? How many of you drew the same shape as the neighbor you just talked to? Okay. Let's take a look. I'm going to tell you how I would draw it. This is not the right way to draw it. It's the right way for me to draw it, but you might have a different way that you see it, and that's fine, okay? But I'll just talk you through how I do it, because I do think my way, it makes the most sense to me, and I feel like a lot of people do it the same way I do it. So I think it's probably the way that makes the most sense to the masses, not necessarily everyone. Okay, so when I have a prism like this is a triangular prism, like I said. There's 2 triangles that are identical. Those 2 identical things are always the last thing I draw. What I do is I usually start at like the bottom of the figure. So I would start here, and I look at what are the dimensions, what is the shape. That's a rectangle. That's 7 by 4. So I would draw a 7 by 4 rectangle. Okay, this is 4, this is 7. Okay, then I look at it and I go, okay, well, touching that 4 by 7, if I go right here, is a rectangle. What are the dimensions of that rectangle? 10 by 4, right? So I draw that one next, and I would draw it off of the 4. So I would make this 10, this 4, okay? And then if you wanted to, you could keep going to the left, but like I said, I'm very symmetrical. So what I would do is I would take this 10 by 4, so the other one, and I would put it on the other side. You don't have to. It's just the way I would do it. Side note, I am not an artist. You can see that already from my drawings. They're terrible. So just know I don't expect a ton from you. If I can tell what it is and you label it, that's great. I don't need it to be perfect. Just try to make them about the same size. Like this 10 probably should have been a little shorter here, but you know, not an artist. Okay, so those are the 3 rectangles. Now I would do this front triangle, and I would do it off of the 7, but you can do it off of the 10. I would go like this. Okay, so this is 10 and 10. And then there's one off the back also, right? There's a triangle on back that I would also do here and here, 10 and 10. How many of you did that net? Got a few symmetrical people in here? Yep, okay. Totally fine if you didn't. My way is not the right way. I'm just showing you what makes the most sense to me. Any questions on how you do that? I highly recommend when they ask you to do a net that you first stop and think, how many different faces are there? There are 5 faces. I need 5 shapes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Okay, last thing, and then we're done. Example 3 here. They give you all of these nets, okay? So the blue are the nets, and then below it are the polyhedrons. And I will explain polyhedrons in more depth as we get further into geometry. But I want to know, how does the blue match up with the polyhedrons below it? So letter A, where would you put it? Letter B, where would you put that? See if you can match up all 5 of them. And then I want you to tell your neighbor where you put letter A to start. But first, lay it out yourself. See what you get. Okay, tell your neighbor where you put A. What number did A go with? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? And if you want to keep going and tell them some of the other ones too, that's great. All right, where did you put A? Number 3. A is 3. And here's the deal. We're going to name them just so you're getting familiar with what these things are called. Anyone think they can name what that number 3 is? Yeah. Julia. No? Oh, I thought that was a hand. Sorry. Remind me of your name.
John Ross.
John Ross.
Pyramid.
It is a pyramid, okay? It's a pyramid. There's a more specific name for it. What type of pyramid? Does anyone know? Yeah.
Triangular prism.
Not a triangular prism, but I see where you're coming from because there are triangles. So you name a pyramid by its base. Do you know what the base is on this? It's a square pyramid. Yeah, this is a square pyramid. Okay. Remind me both your names. John? What? Jonathan. Oh, you guys sat by each other. Great. It's super easy. I'm kidding. It's good. Wow, we have a John, a Jonathan, and a John Ross in the same class. How does that happen? That's nuts. Okay, letter B. Where'd you put that? 2. Yeah, B is number 2. Anyone know what that's called? It's a rectangular prism. This one's a prism. When they have 2 that are identical, that are parallel and congruent, right? This and this, or you could have said the top and the bottom. That is a rectangular prism. Okay. What's C? C goes with what? C goes with 4. Yeah. And anyone know what that's called? Think about what we did here. It's a triangular, not prism, pyramid. Yep, this is a triangular pyramid. Okay. How about letter D? Goes with 5. Yep. Anyone know what that's called? Yeah.
Triangular prism.
That is a triangular prism. Good. So you name it based on its bases, right? And the bases are the 2 that are parallel and congruent. So a triangle here and a triangle here that are identical. That is a triangular prism. Okay. And then the last one, by process of elimination, E goes with number 1, and we call that a what? That's a cube. Like a die, right? Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, so I will see you tomorrow, 4th period. Your homework is 1.1a, and it should be submitted in Canvas, okay? Then we'll correct it in class tomorrow.